Are you good with that?
Yes, we're good to go. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Paula. Okay, folks, so I'm going to call the April 27th, 2020 regular council meeting to order and begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Katzie, Kwantlen, Masqui, and Semiahmoo First Nations. First off, I want to take a moment to remind everyone that tomorrow, April 28th, is National Day of Mourning, time to honor those workers who've been killed, injured, or suffered illness as a result of workplace-related circumstances. Our condolences go out to the family and the RCMP family of Constable Heidi Stevenson, who just 1 week ago lost her life in the line of duty as she selflessly risked everything to stop the murderous actions of an active shooter in Nova Scotia. Our condolences go to the family and friends of all the victims. We know that your lives will be forever changed in the most heartbreaking of ways. And so are the lives of those who lost family members to the COVID-19 virus. Our thoughts and prayers of this council and goes out to all of them and anyone who's experienced a loss during this challenging time. This is also a time to acknowledge all the frontline workers who are doing a fantastic job of supporting all of us during the COVID-19 pandemic. There's a huge sacrifice in this as each day these workers are faced with a higher risk of contracting the virus. So much respect to each and every one of them. I invite you all tomorrow to mark a moment of silence at 11 a.m. to acknowledge National Day of Honor and all that it represents. So with that, I will also set some reminders for the protocol of this meeting. I know we're still kind of trying to get used to it, so please bear with me, folks. Please remember to mute your microphones when not speaking. And if you're in favor of motion, you don't need to do anything, but if you're opposed to a motion, please indicate by either saying opposed and or by pressing the no button, which is found under the participants tab, I believe, or just raise your hand. No, or raise your hand will do fine. So with me this afternoon, I'm so used to saying this evening, and now we're on to afternoon meetings. I have my fellow council members. I have Councillor Rudy Storteboom, Councillor Rosemary Wallace, Councillor Gail Martin, Councillor Terry James, Councillor Nathan Pahal, Councillor Paul Albrecht, and me, Mayor Val Vandenbroek. And for staff, I have Darren Light with us, who's our Director of Corporate Services, Kelly Kenny, who's our Corporate Officer, Francis Chung, who's our Chief Administrative Officer, Carl Johansson, who's our Director of Development Services, Rick Baumhoff, who's our Director of Engineering, Parks and Environment, and Kim Hiltons, who is our Director of Recreation, Culture and Community Services. So we're going to do adoption of the agenda first, that the April 27th, 2020 agenda be adopted as circulated. Any changes or additions to the agenda? I need a mover and a seconder. I have Councillor Albrecht and Councillor Storteboom for first and seconder. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. We have the adoption of the minutes, the regular meeting minutes from April 6, 2020, that the minutes of the special meeting held on April 6, 2020 be adopted as circulated. I have Councillor James and Councillor Albrecht. Any corrections? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. All right, from the special pre-close meeting minutes from April 20th, 2020, that the minutes of the special pre-close meeting held on April 20th, 2020 be adopted as circulated. Mover and a seconder. I have Councillor Storteboom and Councillor James. Thank you. Any corrections to that, folks? See none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. All right, thank you. Mayor's report. Upcoming meetings. Our next two regular council meetings. Next one is May 11th, 2020. That'll be at 3 p.m. And the one following that will be May 25th, 2020. And that will also be held at 3 p.m. instead of our normal 7 p.m. And with Mayor's reports, our first happening is library happenings with Councillor Martin.
Thank you. I believe Paul is going to, yeah, there we go. So Fraser Valley Regional Library launched a new e-card on April the 2nd, and almost 2,000 new digital cards have been issued at a current rate of almost 100 a day. Many existing customers who had not recently used their cards are also reaching out to update their accounts to be able to access our collections. All of our digital content, including ebooks, audiobooks, magazines, video streaming, e-learning, is available 24/7 online. Borrowing and streaming limits have been doubled for our most popular ebook, audiobook, and streaming services, including Overdrive, RB Digital, Canopy, and Acorn TV. On the chart, you see orange is 2020, green is 2019, and blue is 2018. The time frame shown is March 1st to April the 16th. Usage of our online resources has skyrocketed. In Overdrive, our most popular ebook resource, the average number of new users daily has more than doubled, and average daily checkouts of ebooks has increased by 48% over the same period in 2019. The collection is being expanded with new titles and additional copies of existing titles to keep up with unprecedented demand. Fraser Valley Regional Library has done a soft launch of virtual story times and baby times. A full promotional launch is planned for the near future. As of Friday, April the 24th, we had posted 15 story times and 6 baby times on Facebook and YouTube, with many more in the works to maintain this ongoing service. Even without promotion, the story times have organically garnered many thousands of views. Our very first story time, which is pictured here, has close to 5,000 views already. Many customers are commenting to express their excitement and appreciation for these virtual programs. While the story times and baby times will continue, staff are also exploring ideas for other types of virtual programs, including those for adults. And teens can get creative. The Fraser Valley Regional Library's 5th annual Teen Creativity Contest has been extended to May the 31st. Show us your creative writing, display your artistic skills, build a robot, write a song, loop a video. It can be anything you put your mind to. Teens can win one of 12 Visa gift cards. And that is it. Thank you very much for library.
Great, thank you very much, Councillor Martin. It's great to see that the library is still providing so many great services. Does anybody have any comments or questions for Councillor Martin at this time? I don't see any hands up. So it was great, thank you. Next up, we have Kim.
Hello, Val.
Oh, yes.
Hi.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Maybe I don't know if it's working, but so when I want to say something, don't I just put my thumb up?
Go into
where it says more on the right hand side of my computer. It says chat, meeting settings, disconnect auto, and then there's a clap hands.
You can do anything like that. Sorry, I was looking, I didn't see anybody on there. So you go ahead. Did you have a comment for Councillor Martin?
Yeah, I did.
Go ahead. Oh, now you're on mute.
I just muted myself again.
That's okay.
Thanks, Councillor Martin, for that. I just was intrigued by the teens. How creative can you get? Yeah, and I was wondering about such an awesome idea, and just wondering if the school district knows about that, or if we can put that forward. I'm sure somebody in the school district knows, but as far as council goes, that would be great to send that out to the district so they can send it out to their students.
Yeah, I mean, it says here you could, anything you can put your mind to, you be creative. Whether the school, Langley School District knows, I don't know, but again, we could have the city staff send something out to the school districts, because obviously the library covers many school districts. So, but yeah, they could do that.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, ladies. Anybody else? Take a quick look. I don't see anybody else with their hands up. So Kim Hilton, Director of Recreation, Culture, and Community Services, you have a recreation update for us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. After a month hiatus, we bring back our recreation update, and this is for April 2020. Our staff have been busy working on creating a new web page called Recreation at Home. It has a ton of different videos and links to a wide variety of opportunities for people of all ages. And this is a great way to stay active and healthy while we are at home. Some of the key features within our web page: active aging resources. We have staff that are online doing some fitness classes. We also have some of our preschool staff providing arts and crafts ideas. We have online events, fundamental skills for kids. Some of our popular rec workers are featured here as well, and also some virtual museum links. Okay, why am I not moving forward? Let's go down here. Okay, there we go. And so we do have, many of our events have been canceled or postponed, but I am happy to say that people are getting creative and are coming up with different ways of doing special events. So we have an online event. It was an event that was originally to be held at Douglas Park. Is our virtual MS Walk. It's on May 24th, and the opening ceremony is at 9 a.m. And you can go online to our website at langleycity.ca, and you will see the link there. So it's a great way to share events and still stay connected. Our youth programmer has been, our youth programmer has been really busy and coming up with a variety of opportunities for youth to stay connected. And you can see that he is hosting a teen time on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 to 4:30. He's brought in a Wellness Wednesdays, and that's at 3 o'clock. And we're going live with Active Fridays at 3 p.m. as well. So again, if you log on to langleycity.ca under recreation, you can find all these links. And it's a great opportunity to be active, connected, and engaged. And here we go. So Instagram challenges, our youth. I know I'm not as interested in Instagram, but certainly my children are. So Instagram challenges weekly for youth, and the youth can sign up and join our youth Instagram page. And the details are provided on how to do this. And there's different posts that can be put up every week. And this challenge is for a chance to win a $15 Amazon gift card. Because what else can you do? If you can't go out, you can still shop online. So this is a great opportunity for our youth to still be connected with our youth leader and participate with each other. I just want to remind people to stay active, but stay safe. So make sure you plan to go outside for some fresh air using our great trail system, but please remember to practice your safe physical distancing. And that's my update for today.
Great, thank you, Kim. That was, it's just great how you and staff have just adapted, right? We've just all done that. So kudos to all of you for keeping everything running. I believe I have Councillor Albrecht who has a comment.
I just wanted to echo those same comments there, that I'm always amazed at how adaptive and creative our recreation staff are, and how they're always trying to be proactive in trying to service our community and provide participation and activities for all. So congratulations, Kim, to you and your staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else have any comments or questions for Kim Hilton? I don't see anybody's hand raised or any thumbs up. So thank you, Ms. Hilton. That was great. Next up, we have Emergency Operations Center COVID-19 update. And I believe we have Ginger Sherlock, our emergency coordinator, and Scott Kennedy, our fire chief, acting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council, I'm just getting this. So I lost it. There, how's that? Ginger and I have a short presentation for you on the Emergency Operations Center update, the activities we've undertaken, and the next steps we're moving through. So I will let Ginger start with the introduction.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear us okay? Perfect. All right, you can move to the next slide. My slide master here.
Yes.
So as Scott suggested, the discussion's going to be very quick. I'm going to be going through a lot of information, both of us. Just to recap our initial briefing, the pandemic timeline, just a really high level to kind of remind us of where we're at. Scott will talk to our EOC response structure and share some challenges and solutions that we've done. And then we'll talk about sustained response and into recovery. Next slide. Okay, so the federal government has identified 10 sectors that are considered critical for us to live, work, and play in this country. Now, when we think in terms of risk, we look at who is responsible for what, we anticipate the impacts and how that will affect us, and ensure that we are able to continue critical functions. As a local government, we are responsible for government, safety, water, sewer, and roads. When we dealt with the H1N1 pandemic in 2009, only the health sector was impacted. So when we looked at these sectors at the beginning of March, only health had been impacted. Next slide. When we provided a briefing of the COVID-19 event to Council on March 9th, it was to share that we had a pandemic plan and we were working to ensure critical functions were maintained. Next slide. And our primary message reiterated what health was saying at the time, as they are and still are the lead agency for this event. And since March 9th, much has changed. However, this information, if you look at it, really has not. Next slide. So now what have we done since then? So when you look at what's happened, this is just a snapshot. I squished it all into one slide, and I probably would need 15 slides to list all that has happened. This timeline has key international impacts. They're sort of listed in black, and the provincial ones are in blue. And the orange and red sort of represent health impacts for BC and Canada. So visually, when you look at the dates and then compare where we are in the calendar, a lot has happened in a very short span of time. It has only been 3 months since Canada had its first confirmed case. In just over 2 months, Canada surpassed 10,000 cases. And as you guys know, on the weekend, globally, we passed another milestone as well. I think we have 3 million confirmed cases globally. But BC had its first death only 6 weeks ago when you put it in context like that, right? When you put it on a calendar, it makes you realize we've done an awful lot. There's only been 4 days separating the banning of 250 people and more, and the restriction of more than 50. So when I actually put it down, I went, oh, I didn't realize how quickly the timelines were moving. The public health emergency being under the Health Act is very different from the state of emergency under the Emergency Program Act, which of course is March 17th and 18th succinctly. Next slide. Now to sort of put it in context, our timeline. In the first week of March, each business unit was to review and confirm their essential and core functions. March 11th, the city and township activated their emergency plan to support health response, liaise with regional efforts, and disseminate critical information to the public. March 18th, the city of Langley and the township of Langley activated separate emergency operations centers for the first time in history. Joint situation reports and expense reports are submitted daily to EMBC, Monday to Friday. BC issued orders on March 26th. Again, a first time in BC history that orders were given under the Emergency Program Act. The next day, our EOC staffing increased as additional tasks were now being delegated to local government. Next slide. Over to Scott to explain what that means.
So what you see in front of you is a typical EOC structure, organizational structure. As much as we follow this structure, this is not a normal EOC. Our EOC is an EOC is designed to be expanded and contracted as necessary, which we've done. Initially, our EOC had 6 staff members in it. Today it has 12, based on what needs to be done. These 12 staff members do not work full-time in the EOC, but all contribute to EOC activities as needed while continuing on with their regular jobs within the city. This chart does not show or include all of those working to maintain our city essential services as well. The EOC director is responsible to report to the policy group, that being yourselves, mayor and council. Each function has clear responsibilities as they report to the EOC director. As an example, Ginger would be listed here as the liaison officer, noted in red, and I would be noted as the operation chiefs here in yellow. Orange, sorry. Next slide, yeah. Orange, I'm orange. I would like to briefly share with you the functions that are going on right now within the EOC. First and foremost, finance. Finance is responsible for submitting expenditure authorizations forms and daily expense forms to the province or EMBC for COVID related expenditures. Logistics, we've split into 2 parts. On the HR side, focusing on maintaining critical staffing levels through isolation, sick leave, working with unions, establishing new policies, working from home policies, and other creative workarounds to keep staff employed. On the procurement side, focusing more on managing and tracking resources requests sent to the province. Planning is where we'll be moving to, but planning is working on supporting local agencies and organizations that are supporting our vulnerable population, looking at how we can support BC Housings and Fraser Health Authority framework to assist those facing homelessness. Planning has also started to look at recovery, both for the local government and the community as a whole. Operations is what we've been traditionally focusing on, the network with all departments as the COVID issues arise and the challenges are being faced that we've never faced before. Physical distancing, additional bylaw support, increase in public work activities due to the impact of critical infrastructure, changes to fire dispatch calls, and dealing with the shortage of PPE, personal protective equipment, and developing critical ways to ensure that the safety of all of our staff. Information officer. This has been a critical component of our EOC activation. Without information, we are lost. Our information officers have done a brilliant job of keeping our website up to date on provincial and federal government announcements, as well as links to new information along with local programs and initiatives that are there. Our information officers work with the township to ensure that information is aligned and supporting within each community. Our liaison officer, Ginger liaises with the province and other agencies, helping staff understand the EOC environment, document activities, anticipates next steps, and ensures both Langley municipalities are moving towards full recovery. If we have questions or concerns, they are channeled through operations and liaison to the health authority or emergency management through the PREOC Emergency Management BC Southwest Office. This is sometimes on a conference call, Zoom, or an email. EOC Director approves activities of the EOC, encourages us to think outside the box, make sure we're taking care of ourselves and each other, and keeping staff and council engaged and informed. Again, critical information. What's hard to see through all of this, with all this work being done, is health is actually the lead on this event. This is a provincial activation. We are supporting that activation. No. As I said before, this EOC activation is like no other EOC activation we've ever done, and we face some interesting challenges. One of the many challenges for staff was the physical distancing. Unlike in the top picture, but more like in the bottom picture, where we do not sit next to each other in the EOC. We couldn't be all in the same room. How could we support each other within an EOC while maintaining our distance? A solution to this challenge was for every department to submit a status report to simulate daily briefings. We've also learned Zoom, how to do conference calls, and many other online continuity tools. Again, this was a challenge that we didn't anticipate, not being able to be in the same room and communicate that way. So once again, communication really is a key to the effectiveness of this EOC. Another challenge we had to overcome was the implementation of the public health officer's orders. An example being quarantining after international travel. Some of these decisions were out of our control and had not been previously considered within our business continuity plan. Again, the example, we planned for staff to be on vacation and suddenly they're coming back and now we have to quarantine them for an additional 2 weeks. How do we keep as many staff employed as possible? How do you continue to provide critical services under new physical distancing guidelines? We still have to fund all of these critical services. All challenges within the EOC activation this time. When able, we are submitting expenses to EMBC. However, not all of these costs are associated with this event and are not considered and may not be considered as recoverable by the province. Moving forward, as we've been actively aware, COVID has been amongst us for at least 7 weeks now, and our EOC has been activated for 5 weeks. We are into a sustained response. This response is longer than most other responses we've ever gone through. So we are getting the municipal departments to ask questions to ensure we collectively aligned on how we're going to move forward. We encourage all agencies, organizations, and businesses to answer the questions listed to help them and their businesses identify who to connect with and what tasks to consider as they move forward. Because moving forward, we move into one of the most important portions of this response, that being recovery.
So we are going to make those questions that you saw on the last slide available to the public and put it on our website as we move into this. The spheres that you see on the screen are taken from Emergency Management BC's recovery plan and show critical components needed for any community to truly recover from an emergency event. It was built, that recovery plan was built through the experiences of the forest fires and the floods of 2017 and 2018. Before we build our recovery strategy, we first have to identify what has been impacted within those spheres. And this pandemic is different from other emergencies. We do not have buildings that are lost. We don't have roads or bridges that are rushed out by a flood. This event has impacted our community on a very personal way. We have been impacted socially, economically, and emotionally. It is going to take time, and we need to support all of these spheres if we are able to be successful in recovery. And as personal protective equipment becomes more and more scarce, we might start to see some creative masks. Just keeping it light as we ask you guys to think of recovery and move forward, and if you have any questions.
Great. Well, thank you two so much. That was a great presentation. And as always, you and staff and everybody are doing a fantastic job in this unprecedented time. So thank you. I believe I have Councillor Storteboom.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Scott and Ginger, for your excellent comprehensive report. I really appreciate you taking the lead on this, bringing all of the experience that you have to the table in keeping with what you have studied for and practiced for to keep us all safe. Thank you for your service. Please extend Council's appreciation to your teams. I hope everybody's doing well. I can't help but be curious if we have sufficient number of volunteers, if we have the amount of personnel that we need to address the challenges that we have never faced before. What's our status with regard to the team? Mental health, are the numbers there? Do we have enough volunteers? Would you mind commenting on that for me?
Certainly, Councillor Strudeboom. Our numbers are good at the moment. Our morale is good at the moment. We are finding new challenges and new opportunities. But generally, I would say our numbers are very good.
Thank you. Please take care of yourself for me.
Thank you very much.
Great, thanks. Did anybody else have any comments or questions for these two? Just checking down the list. I don't see anybody. So thank you very much for that wonderful report and all that you do.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so next up we have some bylaws to deal with this afternoon. We have bylaw number 3127, the financial plan bylaw amendment to amend the 2020 to 2024 financial plan bylaw. And I believe Mr. Darren Light, our Director of Corporate Services, has a presentation to explain the proposed amendments.
Have to unmute myself first, sorry. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. My presentation will address three areas or three bylaws that are on the agenda tonight or this afternoon. The financial plan amendment, the tax rate bylaw, and the tax penalty bylaw. The original 2020 to 2024 financial plan was adopted in February this year and had proposed a $1.95 million increase to bridge the financial gap for 2020, which equated to an overall 6.67% property tax increase. City Council recognizes the current economic challenges being faced by our residents, property and business owners in our community due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, City Council has decided to take measures to mitigate the taxation impact outlined in the financial plan to ease the financial pressures on our taxpayers in the City of Langley. These measures include deferring the borrowing of a $10 million in 2020, which was part of our Nexus of Community plan, and it will be deferred till 2021, which will eliminate the debt servicing costs of $827,665 or 2.83%. We're deferring several new staff positions until future years, a reduction of $120,855 or 4.42%. We're reducing the contribution to our capital works reserve for infrastructure renewal from $100,000 contribution to $50,000, a reduction of half or 0.17%. And we're increasing the building permit revenues projection by $400,000 or 1.37%. This revenue projection may not be sustainable in future years and will be reassessed in 2021. We're also reducing some staff training costs. The amended 2020 to 2024 financial plan has reduced the increase to bridge the gap to $535,000 from the $1.95 million. The amended overall property tax increase is 1.83%. On this slide, although the total net increase in expenditures resulted in a 1.83% overall taxation increase, when you include the utility rates, the average changes in 2020 are as follows. In the first columns are relating to the single family residential, which had an average assessment in 2020 of $858,000. You can see the municipal taxes will go up 1.79% or $37. And then when you add in the utilities for water, sewer, and garbage, the total is $77.60 or 2.44%. On the right-hand side is the multifamily properties. And again, the taxation will be reduced down to 1.82%, overall 2.41% or $37. For our business and light industrial properties, for the municipal portion of the taxes, property taxes, you'll see a 2% increase or a 2.14% increase. We also are maintaining the ratio that we had previously, keeping that competitive ratio between residential and business properties, ensuring the City of Langley remains as an attractive municipality to locate a business. The pandemic has necessitated the closure of our Cascades Casino. The capital improvement plan has been redrafted to reduce the anticipated casino proceeds to be received in 2020 from the original $7.2 million in half to $3.6 million. This change in funding will necessitate deferral of future year capital projects, but the current year 2020 plan can continue to be carried out. The overall capital improvement plan expenditures are now $9.513 million. Municipal governments are required under provincial community charter to adopt a balanced budget and cannot use debt to pay for operating expenditures like the province or federal governments are able to do. Property taxes are collected halfway through the year and provide the city with the cash flow to ensure the city can provide essential services such as water, sewer, roads, fire, and police services. We forecasted the cash flow effects of if taxpayers are unable to pay their property taxes on time, and there's 3 different scenarios here. As you can see, at the end of the year, the city would be relying on our own cash reserves in order to carry out the unpaid property taxes. So we would be looking at our reserves for capital improvement projects to be funding our operating funds. The province did announce last week that there will be a reduction in school taxes for business, light industrial, and not-for-profit taxpayers, allowing the municipality, which will reduce those property taxpayers by approximately 25%, further than what I've already discussed earlier. Municipalities are also going to be allowed to delay our payment of school taxes until the end of the year. Normally, we remit them shortly after the tax due date. However, the city must still pay the other taxing authorities like TransLink, Metro Vancouver, BC Assessment Authority on time, which is either July 31st or August 1st. So even though we might not get all our property taxes collected on the due date, we're still required to pay other taxing authorities their full tax requisitions. Therefore, we're recommending to City Council to maintain the July 2nd property tax payment deadline. And then further, to help the taxpayer, the tax penalty bylaw later on tonight's agenda or today's agenda will propose to alter the property tax penalty amounts and dates. So the property tax penalty for residential property owners was previously 5% on July 2nd, after the tax due date, and a further 5% after August 2nd. So in 2020, The penalty will be reduced to 2% after the July 2nd tax due date, and the second penalty date will be extended to October 1st at 8%. The province has mandated that the business, light industrial, and non-for-profit classes properties will have one penalty date of October 1st at 10%. City Council believes that the reduction in property tax rate will help ease the financial burden for our residential and business property taxpayers. We will work together to overcome the current economic crisis and restore hope for an exciting future. Are there any questions?
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Light. Yeah, these are times we've never had before. So thank you and your staff for coming up with this solution for everyone. We appreciate it. First up, I have Councillor Storteboom.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Light, for the tremendous effort that you've put in. I want to thank Council and all staff for responding with a reasonable budget to an unreasonable circumstance. It feels like we're putting our future on hold. I only hope that when we find ourselves at the end of this situation, that the catch-up will not be too burdensome and that we'll be able to cushion the blow moving forward. I appreciate the province's adjusting the school tax. I can only hope the Metro, TransLink, and the BC Assessment Authority might be able to do that as well. I do have a question, though, for Mr. Light with regard to the possibility of staggering the tax penalty over time, rather than just those 2 dates, if it might be available to have smaller increments over a stretch of time that might be 5 months.
We did follow up with our tax computer solution, which is Tempest, and we were unable to find a way to do that. In short notice that we have, it's just not possible for this time period. But it was something that we did follow up with and tried to do.
Okay, just to follow up and say thank you for investigating that. It is my understanding then that although it may be available by legislation, it may not be available with the software that we currently have at the city.
That's correct.
Thank you again for your tremendous effort. Really appreciate all of the work that council and that staff have done to prepare this new budget. And I look forward to hearing the public appreciation for it as well, because these are hard times. Thank you again very much.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Councillor Storteboom. Did anybody else have any comments or questions for Darren? Okay, seeing none. So as per Mr. Light's presentation, we do have an updated version of the bylaw number 3127 in front of us for consideration of first and second readings. The motion is that the first and second reading of the bylaw cited as the Financial Plan 2020 to 2024 bylaw 2020 number 3120, amendment number 1, bylaw number 3127. I need a mover and a seconder. I have Councillor Martin and Councillor James. Great. And any more discussion on this? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Bahal.
Thank you. Will this be like another amendment where there'll be an opportunity for public input to be received before third reading?
Yes, that's correct. This is first and second reading, and we'll have an opportunity for public input before the third and final at our next council meeting.
Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that bylaw carries unanimously. All right, the second bylaw in regards to this, bylaw number 3122, tax rate bylaw to levy property value taxes for municipal purposes for the year 2020. I believe, Darren, Mr. Light, you already spoke to this. You don't need to speak again to that, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. So this motion is the first, second, and third reading of the bylaw cited as the 2020 Tax Rates Bylaw 2020 number 3122. I need a mover and a seconder. I have Councillor Albrecht and Councillor Martin. Great, thanks. Sorry, I'm just trying to lower hands and do this all at the same time. All right, any discussion on this, folks? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that bylaw carries as well. And on to the third and final bylaw, which is bylaw 3128, the tax penalty addition bylaw amendment to amend the tax penalty addition bylaw. And this is also the first, second, and third reading of the bylaw cited as the two tax penalty addition bylaw 1983, number 1267, amendment number 3, bylaw number 3128. I need a mover and a seconder on that, please. I have Councillor Storteboom and Councillor James, thank you. And any discussion on that, folks? Just looking for hands, seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that bylaw carries as well. And thanks again for everyone for all their hard work on all of that. All right, now we go on to administrative reports. This is just some housekeeping to do, some temporary exclusion of public from open meetings. The motion for it is that as permitted under ministerial order number M083, open meetings of council be held in the absence of the public until such time as the provincial declaration of state of emergency has been lifted. I need a mover and a seconder, please. I have Councillor Albrecht and Councillor James, thank you. Any discussion on this? Councillor Pahal.
Thank you, and through the mayor to Ms. Kenny. Obviously, we are in a time where people can't get together in person, and this is how we have to deal with that. And I look forward to be able to have the in-person council meetings again. But just a question on the teleconference recordings that we have posted. Now, I know that they're available in City Council, council meeting minutes, council meeting agendas, meetings, and webcast videos, and then you click the link to download the MP4. So that's some process to get there. Is there any investigation by city staff to make that a little bit easier for residents to find? I'm pretty technically savvy and was able to find it and view it with DLC, but I know that maybe some people might not be. So I'm hoping that we'd still be able to maintain that transparency and accessibility as we move forward. So if there's a way that someone is more easy to find that video, I don't know if that's something you're considering exploring.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Paul. Yes, we definitely want to make it as simple for people to be able to see the council video, as this is the main way they're going to be able to participate. So I could refer this to our Deputy Corporate Officer, Paula Cusack, because she's been our Zoom guru who has setting all the meeting requirements up. So Paula, are you able to advise whether there's been any ability for us to make the video more readily available?
Hi, thanks, Kelly, and through the mayor to Councillor Pahal. I haven't had an opportunity yet to explore how we can webcast. I know that some people are doing that, but we haven't quite figured out the technology yet at the city, so that's next on the agenda.
That's very good. And if I just may refer back to you via the mayor, I mean, even the existing process, if there's a way to make it easier in the interim too. I know you're already on top of all of this stuff, but I know our residents would greatly appreciate that, I'm sure. So.
Yeah, we can look into putting a link maybe on the homepage that would make it simpler to find for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. That's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Pahal. Okay, anybody else? Okay, Councillor Martin, I believe. Yep. You're on mute, Councillor Martin.
Thank you.
There you go. Yep.
I'm assuming this motion applies if we decide to meet back in the council chambers. Anybody want to answer?
Through the chair to Councillor Martin, I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure what your question is.
Well, this says that we can hold meetings in absence of the public until such time the declaration of state of emergency has been lifted. Well, we're not meeting in public now. I mean, as a council, we're meeting via Zoom. So what does this apply to? What meetings does this apply to?
Yes, so right now we're meeting virtually because that is, the best way to do it right now. I can understand if there's a relaxation of the requirements where we possibly could meet in council chamber, would we still want to be precluding the public from attending? Well, I think it really all hinges on whether the state of emergency is lifted. So I think that's pretty well going to determine how we proceed at this point. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it just seems kind of redundant, the motion, because I mean, if the state of emergency is lifted and we can gather in groups again, we'll go back to meeting in our council chambers. And I would assume the public would be invited.
Right. And so what this motion does, it's to really just be a formal direction from council that we are going to be meeting in the absence of the public. We have that choice at this point. So we're making a motion here that council will meet in the absence of the public and also have committee meetings in the absence of the public.
Okay. Is the public able to access this meeting that we're holding right now?
It's not being live streamed, but they can access it on our website, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks for the clarification, Ms. Kelly. Nathan, Councillor Pahal.
Thank you, Mayor Vandenbroek. Yeah, I think really this is kind of a retroactive as well, because we are meeting without the public virtually or otherwise, right? So this kind of goes back to the several meetings we've had in the past where we've been meeting without the public being able to like look us in the eyeballs, as it were. Is that what this is kind of meant to address, whether it's virtually or physically? I think you're on mute, Ms. Kenny.
That is correct, Councillor Pahal. Originally, when the ministerial order came down, it wasn't quite clear whether councils just had the ability to meet in the absence of the public, and things happened very quickly. And as more advice, the advice from the province was there should be a motion, a formal motion from council just to have that on the books so that we're all in agreement to meet in the absence of the public.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Councillor Martin.
Yeah, I'm just curious how we're going to get public input into the budget at the next meeting.
So we're going to be advertising in the local newspaper and providing the opportunity for people to provide their responses to Paula through their email, or even like a handwritten letter if they wanted to, but that it won't be in person, it'll be in writing.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Does anybody else have any more questions or comments? I think we've got that clarified. Good, so we can vote on that. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that carries. Okay, so we have some new and unfinished business. First thing is correspondence. We had some correspondence from the Langley Care Foundation. It was a grant request. So we did receive an email earlier today from the foundation advising they wish to withdraw their grant request as they have received donations of iPads from the public. So moving on to the next item, I guess. We did receive, yes, Councillor Storteboom. You're mute, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I sincerely appreciate the fact that the community has come together for the Langley Lodge. There is a video available online advising of their grateful appreciation to their healthcare workers and the public outpouring of love and appreciation for the Lodge. I'm happy to report that the COVID outbreak at the Langley Lodge is deemed to be over by Fraser Health Authority. So there's a bit of good news in our day today that the Langley Lodge is doing well and receiving a lot of appreciation for all that they do for their healthcare workers. And moving forward, the outbreak is over. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that update. So the second piece of correspondence that we received was from Cystic Fibrosis Canada, British Columbia and Yukon region, just telling us that May is Cystic Fibrosis Awareness Month. Any comments for that? Seeing none. And the third piece of correspondence we received was the Canadian Perinatal Mental Health Collaborative, and that runs from May 3rd to 10th, 2020 for Maternal Mental Health Week. So it's just going to, they're looking for a national strategy for perinatal mental health. All right, so new business. I have a release of motions from the April 6, 2020 closed meeting of council. So bear with me while I read this out. The following motions were released from the April 6th closed meeting, and I will read them from information. Postponement of alternative approval process for loan authorization bylaw number 3112, that the alternative approval process for property acquisition and infrastructure upgrades loan authorization bylaw 2020 number 3112 be postponed pending a report to council on considerations in determining whether to proceed with the current loan authorization bylaw. Second one is the advisory design panel member appointments, that the following people be appointed to the city's advisory design panel for a term of 1 year, expiring December 31st, 2020. Scott Thompson, City of Langley resident. Rob Chorney, City of Langley resident. Heidi Tobler, Business Community Representative, DLBA. Garth White, Business Community Representative from the Chamber of Commerce. Clark Cavalinas, BC Society of Landscape Architects. Chad Neufeld, BC Society of Landscape Architects. Mark Lissac, Architectural Institute of BC, and Wendy Crow, Architectural Institute of BC. 2, that the following person be appointed to the city's advisory design panel as the accessibility representative for a term of 1 year expiring December 31st, 2020. Ella Van Enter. And with that, folks, I need a motion that the meeting adjourn. I need a mover and a seconder, please. I've got Councillor Wallace and Councillor Bahal. All those in favor? Any opposed? And it carries. We are done, folks. Thank you so much.